Forget Hollywood action. This is real-world high-stakes warfare. We're going inside a mission that lasted just over an hour, but redefined the rules of engagement. On September 25th at 05:17, 6 Ukrainian Beaver drones launched from Kherson. Their target, Katcha Airfield in Crimea. Their prize, 2 high-value Russian An-26 transport planes, sitting ducks. The operators weren't lucky. They plotted a route right through a known gap in Russian radar coverage, skimming the waves toward their objective. It was supposed to be a ghost mission, but a nightmare was waiting. The Russians knew the gap existed. They parked a TORM M2 air defense system, a $1 million countermeasure, right in the kill zone. At 12 kilometers, its radar snapped onto all 6 targets. Imagine hearing the sound that means your life is over. For the lead drone's operator, that sound was a specific tone confirming a lock. A Russian 9M331 missile was airborne, accelerating to Mach 3. They had 18 seconds until the drone became confetti across a 16-meter blast radius. The operator did the only thing possible, a high G dive for the deck. The drone's frame creaked like an old ship. It leveled out just 3 meters above the Black Sea, tasting the salt spray. The missile tried to follow, but it was a 1990s weapon designed for high-altitude fighter jets, not low-flying composites. The insane G-forces of the turn were melting its control surfaces at 850 meters per second. When it hit the water, it didn't matter if it was a missile or a brick. It was finished. The explosion shrapnel, a 40-foot spray of seawater and steel, caught the second Beaver, crippling its wing and sending it into the sea. The 5 survivors scattered instantly like pool balls after a break. The TORM operator was panicking, trying to select the next target. His system was built for straight lines. One drone turned back, climbing steeply. It presented its full wingspan and belly to the radar, turning its signature from a tiny speck to a massive threat. The Soviet programming interpreted a large return plus vertical movement as a high-priority fighter or an incoming missile. The ruse worked. The TORM system tagged it as the primary threat and sacrificed 2 missiles to destroy the harmless decoy, allowing the 4 real threats to drop back to wave height and book it toward the coast. By the time the TORM operator realized he'd been played, the 4 drones were inside the system's minimum arming range, the distance where the missile can't arm its warhead fast enough. It's like trying to punch someone who is hugging you. His desperate warning was the sound of millions of dollars of hardware being outsmarted by a hobbyist plane. 4 drones, ultra-close. They know our positions. That message reached a Raptor patrol boat, which had been hiding engines off for hours behind an abandoned gas platform, a perfect blind spot, waiting for this exact 5:30 to 6:30 window. The platform gave the boat $1 million cover. At its bow was an Upravakord remote weapon station with a KA-52 heavy machine gun, a gyro-stabilized computerized beast. At .531, the 4 Beavers were flying blind on GPS waypoints, but the Raptor's thermal imager saw them. Their gasoline engines were running at 200 degrees Celsius against a 15 degrees CC, making them glow like cigarettes in a dark room. The ambush erupted with 14.5mm thumb-sized rounds, capable of punching through an inch of steel. The first Beaver took 6 hits in 2 seconds, but here's the brilliance of its design. It was an empty, flying box with electronics tucked away. The rounds passed straight through without hitting anything vital. The damaged drone instantly climbed straight up, leaving a smoke trail. At 100 meters, geometry saved it. The Raptor's gun could only aim up to 60 degrees. The drone was now directly overhead at 85 degrees. The gunner could see it, but he couldn't point his weapon at it like trying to swat a fly on the ceiling. The boat's engines roared, rocketing to 48 knots in 12 seconds. Bouncing across the waves, the gyro stabilizer couldn't cope. It was impossible to shoot straight. The 3 undamaged drones split around the patrol boat, forcing the gunner to choose. At 48 knots, the turning radius was 300 meters. They couldn't turn fast enough. The captain watched them disappear, outmaneuvered by aircraft more agile than his patrol craft. A KA-52 attack helicopter was vectored to the scene, low on fuel, banking hard. It had to succeed on its first pass. The KA-52 is a twin-rotor beast, giving it power for speed and weapons. The KA-52's Arbalete 52 radar locked on. The pilot fired a Vikra missile, an anti-tank weapon designed to turn heavy armor into modern art. It was a sledgehammer being used to swat a mosquito. The missile followed a laser beam like a train on a track. It passed within 3 meters of a drone. Any tank would have triggered its proximity fuse, but the Beaver's small, composite body reflected radar like a business card, not a billboard. The fuse never recognized it. The KA-52 next unleashed its electronic warfare suite. pumping 100 watts of radio static across every drone frequency. It was like standing next to a rock band trying to listen. The 4 beavers immediately lost contact with their operators. Here's the fatal flaw. You can't shout over someone who has already hung up the phone. Once the drones lost the signal, they seamlessly switched to pre-programmed waypoints stored in their internal memory. No fancy evasion, just a deadly pizza delivery route. They split 3 ways again. 1 climbed to gain altitude, 1 stayed at optimal engagement height, and 2 dove toward the waves, using the KA-52's own rotor wash to blind it. The pilot rolled into a high G turn, trying to line up his 30mm cannon. But the helicopter has to point at what you're shooting. It's like trying to aim an 8-ton rifle. The cannon was bore-sighted for 2,500 meters. At the close range of this dogfight, the rounds would actually pass below the target, compensating for a bullet drop that hadn't happened yet. The shells made spectacular water fountains. The pilot was then flashed with his own warning system. He was 10 kilometers from the coast, in range of friendly fire Panzer systems at the airfield. He pulled up and turned north. His job was done. The battered but flying ghosts were now the Coast Guard's problem. The instant the 4 drones crossed the coastline at 5:45, 2 massive radar stations lit them up. But here is the beautiful, deadly irony. After a previous attack from the north, the Russians had repositioned all their Panzer systems to face north. Reorienting them to face the incoming southern threat would take 30 seconds. In modern combat, 30 seconds is the difference between victory and a viral YouTube video. The lead beaver climbed directly toward the MR-10M1 coastal surveillance radar. Following the radar's own signal, it was essentially screaming, "Here I am." A Panzer fired a missile, which accelerated to Mach 2 in 3 seconds, but self-destructed harmlessly overhead. Why? The drone had already passed inside the missile's minimum arming range, costing Russia $90,000. The second beaver used the terrain to bounce radar waves, creating ghost images that made the Panzer's computer see 3 targets when there was only 1. The operator was forced to pick manually, and by the time he chose, the drone was diving. At 060, the first beaver hit the MR-10M1 antenna. Its shape charge turned 5 kilograms of explosive into a jet of molten copper, punching through the radar system. 8 seconds later, the second beaver hit the Podliv K1 antenna. Several $1 million became scrap metal. The 2 remaining drones, one damaged but flying, the other circling wide now, had a clear path to the airfield. 2 AN-26s, tails painted blue 30, sat waiting. They were a gift-wrapped present labeled "Please blow me up." At 0601, the damaged drone struck the first AN-26. The final, circling drone hit the second one. The explosions crushed everything within 50 meters with pure pressure before the fire even arrived. The fireball reached 40 meters high and 2,000 degrees Celsius. The 2 aircraft demonstrated how quickly aluminum can become a puddle. Visible on satellite images the next day. For the 4th time in a week, Ukraine had struck the same airbase. The operation proved that no matter how sophisticated your defense systems are, they are vulnerable to tactical intelligence, relentless dedication, and a low-flying, determined ghost. If you like deep dive in military, please don't forget like, comment, share, and subscribe for more informative videos. Thanks for watching.